What happens when speed and cutting-edge design combine to push the boundaries of aviation? The result is the B-58 Hustler, an extraordinary aircraft that redefined the future of flight. What magnified this amazing work of art wasn't just beauty, but its ability to sustain Mach 2 speeds. The Hustler's sleek, futuristic design and advanced technology set it apart from anything that came before. Speed was its armor, and nuclear capability was its sword, as it was designed to deliver nuclear bombs at blistering speeds. Its futuristic delta-wing silhouette and state-of-the-art technology reflected the daring spirit of the era. The B-58 quickly became a symbol of American innovation and air superiority. But how did this supersonic masterpiece come into existence, and what was the mystery behind its creation? In 1947, the US and Soviet Union were locked in a tense standoff. The Americans feared that the spread of communism was threatening the democratic values and global stability in the post-World War II era, while the Russians saw the establishment of military alliances like NATO as a direct threat to Soviet security and their socialist ideology. And so, the threat of a nuclear war loomed between these two global superpowers. But this wasn't just a war of who had the best nuclear weapon. It was about who could deliver them fast and undetected. The US had long relied on planes like the B-36 Peacemaker and the Boeing B-47 Stratojet, but these bombers were becoming obsolete. The Soviets were developing newer, faster interceptors like the MiG-17 and the MiG-19, which were capable of taking down slower aircraft before they could complete their mission. The US needed something faster, something that could outrun these threats before the enemy even had time to react. It was this problem that led to the birth of the B-58 Hustler. Now, building such a plane wasn't just difficult, it seemed nearly impossible. So, even when the US Air Force approached Convair, an aerospace company with a reputation for taking on the impossible, to ask for their help, their engineers understood the gravity of such an enormous task. Convair knew this wasn't just about creating another bomber. They needed to build the fastest bomber the world had ever seen, one that could strike deep into the Soviet territory and make it back before the enemy even knew what had hit them. But this mission wasn't just about building the fastest plane. The aircraft had to evade Soviet radar and missile systems, which were becoming more advanced by the day. Hence, it had to be smart, agile, and stealthy, whilst being powerful enough to carry and deliver nuclear weapons. The truth was Convair's engineers weren't just designing a new plane, they were redefining the future of aviation. A complex task. Convair began work by first ditching the traditional straight-wing design for the bold and revolutionary delta wings. This was no small shift. It was a move that would define the B-58's entire character. But this wasn't the first time Convair was using radical ideas to solve complex issues. During the development of the XF-92A aircraft, their engineers discovered a critical flaw in the narrow-chord, highly swept wing design. The wind tunnel tests they conducted revealed that it simply wasn't stable enough for high-speed flight. So, Convair made a bold choice to ditch the traditional straight wing design in favor of revolutionary delta wings. This decision would define the B-58's entire character. However, the idea of the delta wing wasn't new to Convair. During the development of the XF-92A, the company had experimented with this design and found that a triangular wing shape provided greater stability and control at high speeds. This was a game changer, turning the B-58 into a high-performance machine capable of cutting through the air with incredible efficiency. The delta wings, with their blade-like shape, gave the B-58 the ability to soar faster than the speed of sound, all while maintaining stability. The design was a game changer, turning the aircraft into a high-performance machine that could evade enemy defenses with ease. So, with this revolutionary design in place, how then did this supersonic marvel come to be known as the B-58 Hustler? The answer to that comes from an unexpected source: Convair's company newspaper, Convair. It all happened when E. Stanton Brown, an engineering administrative supervisor, heard the specs of the plane during a briefing on the aircraft's performance, to which he responded with, "Sounds like it'll really be a hustler." And just like that, the name stuck. At first, it was just a casual nickname used informally by the engineers working on the project, but it became so popular that even the Air Force couldn't resist calling it anything else. And that's how the name Hustler became official, a name that perfectly encapsulates the speed and agility of this incredible bomber. However, building a plane to travel at such speeds came with a hefty price. You see, when Convair was developing the B-58, they came to a dead end, and the reason was because flying at Mach 2 generated immense heat, and this posed a serious problem. Standard materials like steel and traditional alloys could only form part of the aircraft as it couldn't withstand the temperatures created by such high speeds. To solve this, they came up with a lightweight honeycomb structure made from aluminum, and it proved effective. The new structure was strong enough to endure the pressures of supersonic flight, but it was also light enough to keep the plane agile. It wasn't an easy fix, but Convair's engineers pressed on, knowing they were building something revolutionary. Now, let's talk about the heart of this beast, the engine. The B-58 was powered by 4 General Electric J79 engines, and these weren't just any engines. They were jet engines capable of pushing the bomber to Mach 2, or twice the speed of sound. To put that into perspective, modern commercial airplanes fly at around 500 miles per hour. In contrast, the B-58 flew at over 1,300 miles per hour, which is more than twice as fast. But you know what they say, speed without power is never enough. Despite its insane speed, the B-58 Hustler would have been useless if it couldn't deliver a powerful strike. Convair knew this, and that's why they designed the B-58 to carry nuclear bombs in a rather unusual way. You see, instead of placing the bombs inside the aircraft, they created an external pod that hung beneath the plane like a parasite. The pod could carry a large nuclear bomb or several smaller ones, along with additional fuel to extend the plane's range. This gave the B-58 its unique, sharp appearance, making the bomber both practical and intimidating. The B-58 wasn't just about looks, though. It was designed to perform. With mid-air refueling, the bomber could travel nearly 4,400 miles, making it capable of reaching deep into Soviet territory. However, there was one big issue. Supersonic speeds and nuclear bombs mean nothing if the crew doesn't survive. To solve this, Convair, in partnership with Stanley Aircraft Corporation, developed advanced escape pods for the 3 crew members: the pilot, the navigator, and the defensive systems operator. These weren't ordinary ejection seats, though. They were fully enclosed capsules that could eject the crew at supersonic speeds, ensuring their safety in case of emergency. When the B-58 first flew in 1956, it wasn't just another plane. It was a testament to how far America had come in aviation technology. Its speed and agility set it apart from anything else in the sky. And it didn't just sit on the runway looking pretty. The B-58 quickly proved its worth in the real world, setting an impressive 19 world speed and altitude records over its decade-long career. One of its most famous achievements came in 1961 when it shattered the transatlantic speed record, flying from New York to Paris in just a few hours. This incredible feat earned the B-58 the prestigious Blériot Trophy, a symbol of aviation excellence. But for all its glory, there was another side to the B-58 story that's not mentioned enough. You see, out of the 116 B-58s that were built, 26 of them were lost in accidents, killing 36 crew members tragically in the process. That's because the plane's extreme speed, while an advantage, came with complications. You see, flying at Mach 2 required massive amounts of fuel, so mid-air refueling became very essential. This added complexity to missions as it required precise coordination between the B-58 and the refueling tankers, which had to be in the right place at the right time. But even at that, refueling was no easy task. The B-58 also had a high accident rate, and according to Convair reports, almost 23% of all B-58s were lost in crashes. This included 2 separate incidents at the Paris Air Show, one of which claimed the life of Lieutenant Colonel Charles D. Tubbs. During this crash, the aircraft fell short of the runway, hitting the approach, lighting, and catching fire. These incidents highlight just how difficult and dangerous flying the B-58 could be, even for the most experienced pilots. Another challenge was the cost. The B-58 wasn't just fast, it was insanely expensive. By the end of its production, each unit had cost the U.S. Air Force a whopping sum of $12.5 million. That's almost 3 times the price of a B-52G. Maintenance was also a constant struggle. Even minor issues could ground the plane for many days. The B-58 was like a high-performance race car that was incredible when it worked, but demanding and costly to keep running smoothly. But perhaps the most significant factor that led to the B-58's retirement was a change in military strategy. The B-58 could outrun all its competition except technology, and soon it caught up with it. Although its primary mission was to deliver nuclear bombs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, were becoming more reliable and efficient, and the need for a supersonic bomber diminished. Besides, the Soviets had also adapted their air defenses to make high-altitude bombing missions less effective. And the B-58, which had been built for speed and altitude, wasn't well suited for the low-altitude strike missions that were becoming more common. By the late 1960s, the Air Force began plans to retire the B-58 fleet. Although it interestingly never dropped a bomb in combat, the B-58 had served its purpose as a high-speed deterrent during the Cold War. In 1970, the plane was officially retired and replaced by the more versatile B-52 Stratofortress, which could fly longer missions, carry heavier payloads, and adapt to a broad range of roles. Unlike the B-58, the B-52 remains in service to this day, a testament to its versatility and enduring value. Even though the B-58's time in the spotlight was short, its impact on aviation history was immense. It was a technological marvel, a plane that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Its speed, design, and groundbreaking achievements paved the way for future innovations in aircraft technology. The B-58 wasn't just a bomber. It was a symbol of the incredible progress made in aviation during the Cold War. And although it may have been retired early, its legacy as a supersonic trailblazer lives on. The men who flew the B-58 were among the best in the Air Force. Flying at supersonic speeds required split-second decisions and perfect coordination between the pilot, navigator, and defensive systems operator. There was no room for error. At Mach 2, even the slightest mistake could be deadly. But the pilots who flew the B-58 loved the challenge. They described it as flying a rocket, thrilling, dangerous, and unlike anything else. Major Howard Bialas, one of its flyers, famously said this, "Am I proud to be associated with this great aircraft? You bet your life. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat. Was I ever scared? Always." The B-58 wasn't just a machine to them. It was a living testament to what could be achieved when engineers and pilots dared to push the limits of technology. Flying the Hustler was considered to be the highest career step that a bomber pilot could attain, and Lieutenant Colonel Strank, a former B-58 pilot, summed up this experience on the B-58 Hustler website. The Delta Wing made the aircraft handle differently than straight-wing aircraft, but it was firm, responsive, and a joy to fly. He noted that pilots couldn't relax from the minute they boarded to the moment they cut the engines, for the aircraft was very demanding of attention to detail at all times. The B-58 Hustler is still remembered today as an icon of the Cold War. Though it never saw combat, its speed, design, and achievements earned it a place in history. Of the 116 built, 8 are on display at various museums around the country, including Cowtown Hustler, which is on display at the National Museum of the United States Air Force. The Hustler was flown to the museum in December 1969 and is now on a permanent display in the Cold War Gallery, where visitors can see up close the sleek, futuristic design that once dominated the skies. Looking at the B-58 today, it's hard not to marvel at its bold lines, its powerful engines, and its unmistakable sense of purpose.